Good morning. Good to see you. I hope you had a delightful, peaceful meditation and that it filled your cup. So, this week we've been talking about the grooves in our mind and the principle of samskara, that thoughts that wire together, fire together, and we build these great neuronal pathways of chronic perception. And no one's immune from doing that. We love our good grooves, and the negative grooves are troublesome. But once a groove is in place, it's pretty much stuck unless we do something about it because of the nature of momentum. The phonograph needle is likely to stay in the groove, and the river is likely to stay in its channel until it's acted upon or interrupted by another force of some sort. Well, same inside of our own heads and hearts. If we continue on autopilot and stay asleep in our various patterns of perception, they will just continue and they'll go. And thank God we trade our brain in once every 3, 4, 5 decades to get a new one, because brains are just patterns of perception. Good ones. I wouldn't want to do without mine. But there's a deepest groove of all, and I think it's so important to remind ourselves of this. And the analogy I'll use quickly is the Mississippi River. It's a mile wide, and it's been flowing downstream for a long time. Now, on the surface of the Mississippi River, there's various eddies and turbulence, and in some places, the water actually appears to go back upstream, and goodness, there's a bunch of stuff going on the top, but the whole river is going downstream, and that's the deepest groove in our being. And yogis have a name for this deepest samskara, this deepest experiential channel in our being. Many scriptures refer to it as a great river, and the river is called Sat Chit Ananda. It's a beautiful Sanskrit phrase, and the best definition I've heard is ever conscious, ever aware, ever new bliss. The fundamental ground of being, river of our consciousness, is bliss. It's a stunning thought, especially given how much we can divorce and separate ourselves from that actual experience. In the subgrooves of our own consciousness, we can be so far away from bliss that we can forget or doubt or even become convinced that such a thing is folly or fancy and there is no such thing. Bliss doesn't care if we forget it, but it's always there should we wish to fall into it. So on this day, let's remember that bliss, joy, love is the great channel of being inside of us. In meditation, we relax out of our little subgrooves that could be going counter to that or off in an eddy somewhere, banging around into other miserable samskaras. So we can either relax into the deepest groove by letting the wavelengths of our mind slow down, and we can also lift up the needle of our own consciousness when we recognize it's producing poor resonance, poor experience, and we can redirect. So these are our great strategies. Let's continue to employ them. But just to remember that bliss is the ground state of our being, is one of the most powerful observational strategies and techniques. Remembering that we are bliss at the core of our being, the willingness to entertain that, the open-mindedness to that is what wakes us up from the grooves that we're stuck in. Have a groovy day. See you all tomorrow.